Rosie Duffield, my goodness, what a letter she has sent Keir Starmer. I'll just read out a little bit of it. I mean, there's so many bits we can concentrate on, but since the change of government in July, the revelations of hypocrisy have been staggering, Rosie Duffield says, and increasingly outrageous. I cannot put into words how angry I and my colleagues are.
Starmer's cabinet has now descended into complete chaos, and this time, the one delivering the blow is none other than Rosie Duffield, one of Starmer's most trusted allies. When such a prominent figure among the key members of the Labour Party walks away, this government is nothing short of a circus. Let's follow this shocking development and the latest news from across the country. And before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Your total lack of understanding about how you've made us all appear. You repeat often you will make the tough decisions, that the country is all in this together, but those decisions do not directly affect any one of us in Parliament. They are cruel and unnecessary and affect hundreds of thousands of our poorest, most vulnerable constituents.
So what is the real reason she left the party she had worked so hard to gain power in? Let's listen as Duffield reveals this herself.
I was unhappy before the election, and I spoke to very close friends who were all also quite unhappy. And we just decided, look, we have to give us a chance. We've all waited for 14 years. We've all worked hard for that time as activists or MPs, people, in our local branches and things. We can't give up. We have to keep going. And we have to believe that things will get better, because that's what we've promised. And as the election campaign unfolded, I thought, okay, I'm doing well. I think if my majority goes up, possibly I'll be able to have those conversations, I'll be able to really get into government, make differences, represent my constituents directly. And after the election, almost straight away, there was the budget event. And I couldn't believe that a Labour government that had been fighting for 8 years were not going out of their way to at least pave a way.
Indeed. Rosie is not the only one disappointed by the Labour Party's post-election plans. When the party won and entered government, the first announcement from the Prime Minister turned out to be a nightmare, as she revealed shocking news that left everyone stunned.
He's received a lot. Look at this, £107,000. In fact, even more than that. That's the total gifts and hospitality he has registered since the start of the last Parliament. Holidays, theatre, music, football tickets, hotel stays, all within the rules, Downing Street says. But now look at this from our spreadsheets. Compared to every other current MP, Keir Starmer comes top of the charts. He has accepted more freebies by far than anyone else, 2.5 times more than the second highest claimer.
Well, can it be said that Rosie Duffield was completely right when she declared that the government under Starmer's leadership has been a mess from day one? The past few months have become undeniable evidence that Starmer has relentlessly increased the tax burden and crippling bills that weigh heavily on the poor in the UK, while he himself casually enjoys luxury and free perks, showing no remorse or regret. Starmer, who claims to be a champion of justice and social equality, has continuously trampled on the very people he should be protecting. Since 2019, Starmer has received a total of £107,145 in gifts, a sum that surpasses that of any other MP. Notably, nearly £40,000 of this came from a single donor, Lord Wahid Ali, while another £16,200 was spent on work clothing. As if that weren't enough, Starmer also spent £3,485 on luxury sunglasses, and over £12,000 came from the FA Premier League, including £4,000 spent solely on VIP tickets to see Taylor Swift at Wembley, a prime example of the lavishness and lack of integrity in his life. Through these actions, Starmer not only exposes his own greed and hypocrisy, but also shows a complete lack of respect for the people he was supposed to serve. He clings to lies and political tricks like a desperate man, attempting to hold on to power at all costs, with no concern for the truth or the welfare of the people. Then, when Rosie Duffield's resignation letter was released, it was like a fire that burned away every layer of falsehood Starmer had carefully built, tearing apart the web of deceit he had woven for so long. That letter wasn't just a goodbye. It was a lethal blow, striking at the heart of the Labour leader's deceitful and greedy nature, cutting through it like a hot knife through soft butter, leaving an irreparable wound in the public's heart.
And then all these stories started coming out, and I thought, well, at first it's just a lot of fuss about nothing because we're in power and of course she's on the other foot, but as more and more and more came out, and rumours that didn't come out were also circulating around the Labour Party, because of course not everyone sees everything, not everything makes the headlines. I just thought, I can't do this. And you know, all of my colleagues, the morale was just on the floor.
The reality check conducted by Rosie Duffield left her stunned as she finally saw the true nature behind the closed doors. Disillusioned with the endless hypocrisy of Keir Starmer, Duffield made the decision to leave the Labour Party, sparking a tense debate over Starmer's deceit since he seized the seat of power. Duffield's resignation letter was not merely a small detail in the political drama, it served as undeniable proof of her loyalty to her constituents, while simultaneously delivering a direct slap to Starmer's face, exposing his weakness and dishonesty.
Like you, and I guess the rest of you guys, I wake up every day and I think, can it possibly for a new government get any worse?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy spent months and years talking about the Tories were scum and their noses were in the trough, and we're going to do government differently. We're going to do it for everybody.
Honesty.
Really, honesty and integrity.
Yeah.
Two great moments this week. Apart from, by the way, another 16 grand's worth of clothes that you forgot about. Lady Victoria Sponge, we love that.
That's a good
She's
one.
had 5 grand. This week, Rosie Duffield, who I actually think should be absolutely celebrated. I will be slaughtered by the transgender community. This is a woman who stood up and said, you know, I defend women's rights to have their own spaces to change. That's their right, right?
Right, because they haven't got a penis.
Because they haven't got a penis. Rosie Duffield resigned. So you fight an election under a Labour banner, and 12 weeks later, you come out and you say, I am so appalled by the leadership. The leadership that is greedy, doesn't care about the working man and woman. Arrogant, just terrible. I am walking out.
Yeah.
No response at all. New Prime Minister. Within 12 weeks, Rosie Duffield does one. I think that speaks.
Sue Gray has been ousted, John McDonnell cast aside, and now it's Rosie Duffield's turn. Starmer's loyalists will struggle to cover up these gaps, but this resignation letter is merely an echo, signalling the widening cracks in the fragile foundation of the Labour Party.
Volumes to what will happen to
how
them.
arrogant they are, because they more or less said good riddance. You know, well, we didn't really like you much anyway.
No.
But let's have a look at what she had to say.
Why is anybody earning the amount of money that Keir Starmer earned as the leader of the opposition taking £32,000 worth of clothes from somebody?
It's a very good question.
How can she not be right?
Yes.
About what
I think she's an admirable politician.
Yeah. And isn't it about time that we had politicians actually stood by, you know, those things we used to call principle? Do you
Yeah,
remember those?
absolutely.
But let's ask that question. You know, what on earth is he doing with all the money? Because that's not the only money.
Why do you
he's
need
got.
32 grand's worth of clothes?
Yeah.
Plus
I
the
know
wife
what
and
he's
so
doing
on.
with the money.
Let's be blunt. Starmer started enjoying a life of luxury funded by taxpayers the moment he stepped into Downing Street. A man who constantly criticised corruption under the Conservative Party, yet now conveniently forgets that he himself is in power, benefiting from the very things he once condemned.
Hypocrisy much, eh?
Lord Ali had given Keir Starmer for clothes. I mean, how big is this man's wardrobe, by the way? I mean, where are these suits coming from, for God's sake? You know, it's Versace. I mean, he's not still here, is he? But like, was he making the suits himself personally? I mean, using little mice? I mean, it's just I mean, I'm picturing a fairy tale here. It's quite...
These are not just random free gifts handed out here and there. Not at all. Starmer is receiving donations and financial support that any Member of Parliament should feel ashamed of, let alone be exposed for publicly accepting. The sums he has received go far beyond the ordinary, even doubling what other MPs might receive in similar circumstances. And if any reports reveal the details of these sums, they only serve to highlight Starmer's arrogance and lack of integrity. Not only does he ignore political ethics, but he also tramples on the trust of voters who believed him to be a champion of justice and transparency.
Go by.
He's been buffeted by a row over freebies and donations. Now, we know what he wants to talk about, his missions. That's what he campaigned on, of course, during that election campaign. But instead, now he's in office, while he's spending his time having to deal with questions over how many Arsenal matches he's been gifted and who's paid for his wife's clothes. It's a bit like a giant game of whack-a-mole.
This man was caught red-handed, caught in the act of reaching into the cookie jar, an unimaginable action from someone who had portrayed himself as a defender of political integrity. Immediately, this moment raised a profound question. Were his bold declarations about cleaning up politics, fighting corruption and upholding justice truly born of sincere intentions, or were they nothing more than empty words designed to mask his true nature? Could this moment of exposure be a stark reflection of what is happening in politics, where grand and noble slogans serve merely as a facade for deceitful and dishonest actions?
Once you account for the slippage in budgets you usually see over a year, and the reserve of £9 billion designed to respond to genuinely unexpected events, it means, Mr Speaker, that we have inherited a projected overspend of £22 billion. If left unaddressed, it would mean a 25% increase in the budget deficit this year.
After this scandal, it comes as no surprise that the situation continues to worsen for the people of the UK. The Labour Party, under the leadership of a bumbling, incompetent and spineless leader, has not only deceived the farmers, those who once trusted the party's promises, but now they have turned their backs on retirees and families struggling with hardship. This shows that Labour is expanding its web of deceit, attacking the most vulnerable groups in society without a shred of remorse. The sudden and deeply disappointing shift in Starmer's stance, abandoning the strong vows and commitments he once made, has left Rosie Duffield feeling nothing but fury. She doesn't just feel profound disappointment, but also a palpable sense of betrayal. Her relationship with the Labour Party, a party she once wholeheartedly trusted and placed her hopes in, has now become a painful story of disillusionment and lost faith. The Labour Party hasn't only betrayed its promises, but also the very values they once championed, forcing her to reconsider her position and ideals in such a party. This is the moment when everyone who cares about the future of the country must speak out and take action. We cannot allow people like Starmer to continue holding influence. They will never be able to lead the country in the right way. Think about this, and if you agree with the above view, share your thoughts in the comments below. Only when we unite and raise our voices can this discussion spread and attract wider attention from more people. Silence is complicity with mistakes, and we cannot let that happen. Recently, Starmer also unveiled a plan to reform the points-based immigration system, which requires companies employing foreign labour to train local workers. One of the new measures in the plan is to ban companies that violate visa regulations or pay low wages from hiring foreign workers for a period of 2 years. He asserted that his government would not repeat the mistakes of previous administrations and pledged to reduce net migration. However, when asked about specific figures and timelines for implementing these measures, Starmer declined to make any commitments. He argued that there are no easy answers to the issue of immigration and that it would be a complex process requiring ongoing effort. At the same time, he emphasised that it would not be possible to set an arbitrary immigration cap and that a long-term plan was needed to address the issue.
This is a different order of failure. This happened by design, not accident. Policies were reformed deliberately to liberalise immigration. Brexit was used for that purpose, to turn Britain into a one-nation experiment in open borders.
Aside from the issue of net migration, Starmer also criticised the cost of the UK's asylum system, which has risen to £5 billion, the highest expenditure on record. This increase is largely due to the need to house tens of thousands of migrants in temporary hotels, a significant issue that the Labour Party faces after winning the elections. Prime Minister Starmer has pledged to reduce asylum costs and find ways to end the use of hotels to accommodate migrants, a problem that has led to much criticism of his government. He said he would focus on processing asylum claims more efficiently to reduce the number of people staying in hotels, which would help alleviate the financial burden. In response to Starmer's statements, Chris Philp, the Home Secretary, criticised the Labour Party's immigration policy. He argued that Starmer lacked a clear plan to control legal immigration and tackle illegal immigration. Philp pointed out that under Starmer's leadership, the number of channel crossings had increased by 23%, and the number of asylum seekers in hotels had not decreased. These comments further highlight the divide between the Labour and Conservative parties on the issue of immigration. Although Starmer has made strong commitments to reduce net migration and reform the immigration system, the criticisms from his opponents indicate that addressing this issue will not be simple. Keir Starmer is currently facing a significant challenge in dealing with the migration issue, which is both a hot-button topic and one with far-reaching implications for his political future and that of the Labour Party. While he has pledged to reduce migration and reform the immigration system, questions about how and when these measures will be implemented remain unanswered. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party continues to criticise Starmer's indecisiveness, posing a significant challenge for him in rebuilding public trust and proving his leadership capabilities. In August, Louise Hay announced a proposal to increase wages by 15% for train drivers, boldly stating that she was fulfilling her promise to act quickly and fix all the problems amid the ongoing strikes. However, Sir Keir Starmer's supporters had a different view of her actions, claiming she had become uncontrollable. Hay faced criticism for putting forward the wage increase proposal, which was enthusiastically accepted by the ASLEF union without consulting the Treasury. It was even reported that Sir Keir only became aware of the proposal through the radio. This 3-year pay deal allowed some train drivers to earn up to £80,000 a year working just 4 days a week, without having to reform any outdated working practices.